Hi, guys, and welcome back to Twisted Locker, your definitive horror podcast. Today, we're going to be doing our favorite horror movie franchises of all time. Now, this should be an interesting one. What have you got for me?
Okay, so first up, I got a classic. It is Scream. Okay, it is one of the most consistent franchises. Uh, I'm not really sure about the numbers, but it's got to be one of the most successful because it is not. There's no sign of it going straight to video like Hellraiser and all the other shit ones. Um, Most people say the first one's the best, and I would probably agree. But there's dips in quality for each one. Number two, it's a good production on it, but I've never really liked the second one as much. Third one is a bit of a novelty. It's pretty good. It's set, so it's set in a world where they're making Stab 3, which is very, very meta. Uh, Four, I hated four when it first came out. I saw it in the cinema, and I rewatched it recently when they made the fifth one. Fifth one is a return to form, and the sixth one is decent. It's not as good as some of them, but it's not trash. It's not like I don't know, Hellraiser 25. It's decent, but it's a bit of a letdown. And you've got in the first few, you've got the main characters, Sydney Prescott, played by Neve Campbell, and she is one of the best final girls ever. She is one of the only ones to be in pretty much all of them, apart from five.
She's coming back as
Well,
well.
apart from six, she's coming back at number seven.
Yeah,
Um, Directed by the writer of the vast majority of them, Kevin Williamson, and
yeah,
he's the genius behind the Scream franchise. I know he did last summer one of your favorite films, Faculty,
yeah.
and a
Sick,
very
newer one.
and the new film Sick. So he's directing this film. I was looking at with the research for this video. I was looking at his filmography. He has written so many fucking good stuff. Like even
The
just TV
Faculty's his
shows like
best work.
Faculty is amazing. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I love it.
Um so you got new characters come into it. You got Barata, and she's Sam, plays Sam, and you got the very famous now plays Wednesday Adams. You got Jenna Ortega plays her sister Tara, and they are kind of the new sort of generation. Unfortunately, they got rid of Melissa Barata, and I think they thought the production was going to be shut down. They managed to get Neve Campbell back, which is perfect. So seven
Jen
has
Ortega's
survived.
gone as well, though.
Yeah, they said it was schedules. It's probably to do
Yeah,
with loyalty. I think
I
I think
think so, yeah.
they fucked it over, but I don't think it matters now. I think Seven will be great. You got a great writer. I don't know what he's directed before, Kevin Williamson, but it's in safe hands writing wise, and you got a classic. My personal favorite is number one, but as franchises go, it is top notch. It's much more violent than you remember if you haven't seen it for a while. It is pretty fucking brutal. I watched the first one not long ago, with my daughter, and it's really. I know it's stabby, but it's brutal. Like
Yeah,
especially
yeah,
number
yeah.
five. When Jen Ortega, Tara, gets attacked in the first scene, it is horrifying. The amount of injury she sustains, it is brutal. But yeah, that's my number one first pick. What's yours? What do you think of Scream first?
I absolutely love Scream. I'm a massive fan of the franchise as a whole. Now, the newest one, which I think was part six, I really didn't get on with. Maybe I've got a little bit of Scream fatigue,
Yeah, could be.
um, but I just didn't get on with it one bit. I loved the fifth one. I went to cinema to watch it, and I absolutely loved it. It was nice to see all these characters
Yeah,
back and see Ghostface again. And then it just outstayed its welcome with the sixth one. But the first five I absolutely love. I'm a massive
yeah,
fan. The best thing to come out of Scream is Scary Movie. I will
yeah,
say, Scary Movie one,
yeah.
amazing. One of the best things
Um,
to come from it.
just a little point. I don't know if you know this, but Scary Movie title comes from the original title of Scream. It was going to be
Yeah, of
called
course.
Scary Movie. The best thing
Yeah,
about six was the fact they used a beaten up Ghostface
that was
mask.
cool. Yeah,
Every film he always looks fresh, and but this one they had the vintage one. It was cracked, and I just thought, oh, finally! I would love to see Ghostface like Michael. Each film get more decrepit and broken, and I love it. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Like
What's
just
your choice
passing the
then, boy?
masks down. Right, so my first choice is one of my favourite horror franchises of all time. Always has been, always will be, ever since I was small. We've got Friday the 13th, which is, again, like you said with Scream, a very consistent franchise, and this is why I love it so much. Obviously, it birthed one of the greatest horror icons of all time, Jason Voorhees,
Yeah,
and it all
he's awesome.
started with Sean S. Cunningham in the original Friday the 13th. After jumping on the bandwagon with the success of Halloween, they scrambled to make this film. They didn't have a script, they didn't have a killer, nothing. They just said, let's write loads of cool kills, let's get kids in the woods and let's get them killed off. And what Sean S. Cunningham did, right, is he put an ad in the newspaper for a film that didn't have a script, didn't have an idea. They just had a title, Friday the 13th, put it in the newspaper, and I suppose back in those days went viral. Um, and the demand for the film was huge, obviously became a massive hit.
Yeah,
With no Jason Voorhees in sight while the film was filming. I don't want to go too much into the history of the first one because I'll end up just talking about the first movie. But obviously, with the second one as well, then you've got Jason Voorhees becoming the killer, but he doesn't don the iconic hockey mask yet. We've got the bag over the head. Friday the 13th Part 2 is a fantastic sequel. Like, up until a certain point, all the Friday the 13th were great, really well made. The camp counselors are really cool, and you remember them. Jason as well, the kills, everything amazing. The third one drops a little bit in quality. It's a little bit cheesy. We start going to that place now where Friday the 13th is getting a little bit silly. You've got Friday the 13th Part 3, and there's obviously loads of scenes where Jason's coming towards the camera. But
yeah,
Jason Part 3 drops a little bit. But my favourite Friday the 13th of all time is Part 4, The Final Friday. I absolutely love this movie, and it is my favourite slasher movie of all time. This is a proper adult grown up horror movie. There's no silliness in there. It's brutal. Jason's the best he's ever been in this film. He looks great. He doesn't have to be this massive mountain of a bloke. He just looks like a regular guy. I think the guy that played him was an old retired stuntman. I think he was in his 60s.
is
Just a
it?
regular, yeah, just a regular guy, right? And I love this movie so much. Tom Savini comes back to do the special effects. This is the only ever one he worked on since the first movie.
Yeah,
And obviously you can feel Tom Savini's presence whenever he works. But Part 4 is my favourite. That's not to say Jason Lives is a close second. Now, when I was young, Part 6 was my favourite because it was a bit more fun and silly. Obviously, I
yeah,
enjoyed that more when I was a kid. But growing up, Part 4 is by far the best one. And then up until about 7, I think they're just consistent. And then after that, it's a drop. You've got Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, Part 7 as well. Part 7 is quite weak. There's a girl with superpowers. I think it was a script for another movie that they turned into
is
Friday the
it?
13th. I can't remember the film.
Yeah,
Um, and then obviously you've got Freddy versus Jason, which is amazing to see, but it's not particularly a good
yeah,
film. But we got the movie that we wanted, and you've got to love it for that. But
yeah.
yeah, that's got to be my first pick. I don't want to talk too much because I'll take up
Um,
the whole video. Friday the 13th.
I do love Jason as a character. I personally think his films are very inconsistent. The rule I like continuity and I like rules. The one thing about Jason, he's a killer, then he's a zombie, then he becomes supernatural. Then he's some kind of like in number 10, he's just got some genetic condition where he regenerates. Then he goes to hell and he's like a spirit. Then Freddy, I don't, is he a zombie in the Freddy one or is he just possessed? I can't even remember. But
Well, the
I
Freddy
remember
versus
watching,
Jason.
yeah, is he a
Yeah,
zombie? Or,
zombie, just a zombie, like,
I,
yeah.
um, there's a bit in like number 8, right, when they're on the ship heading from Manhattan. 5 minutes in there. Uh,
Yeah.
and um, which is fine. I don't hate that film. It's a bit of false advertisement. Jason Takes Manhattan. The cover was him with a his machete with a city, and you're thinking, oh come on. Anyway,
Yeah.
There's a scene on the boat where he's taking them out one by one, the usual thing. And then I can't remember it all because it's been a long time, but somebody climbs up like some ladder getting away from him. And next thing she gets to the top and he's at the top. Dun, like he can teleport. And even as a kid, I was like, since when is he can fucking teleport? That's up there with like Superman kissing Lois Lane in Superman 2 and she loses her memory. Can't add new powers that haven't been established.
Yeah,
But as a character, he is one of my favourites. I've never got on with Michael Myers. Don't really care about him. But Jason with the mask, with his, he's stacked. I love Kane Hodder's sort of performance as him. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I do like the card, not so much the films. Right,
Fair enough.
my last pick, my final pick is Final Destination. See what I did there? Clever. Um,
I'm leaving.
this this franchise is top notch. I wouldn't say it's underrated because it's a big hit, um, but it is sort of kind of forgotten as like how high end it is for a horror franchise. It's about the people have a vision. Each film has someone has a vision of their death. They stop the death, and then death. Not literally, but death sort of comes to them, picks them off one by one, and these sort of inventive deaths. And not to go too much in the plot, I'm sure most people have seen it, but it's a brilliant film when the villain is not even like you've got Tony Todd, who's kind of death. He's the only sort of reoccurring character that's implied that he is death, but he just plays like the mortician or the funeral director or whatever. So you could argue he's not really. It's just like a bit of a wink. Um, but the deaths are so brilliant, and hats off to the best killer in it is usually drips of water that's gradually going somewhere, loose boats, yeah, unsung heroes, yeah, loose boats of things. Oh, here we go, that thing's gonna break. The first one's brilliant. The first one's brilliant. Stars Devin Sawyer. He has the vision of the plane going to crash. He tells everyone to get off the plane, or he gets off the plane. Some people get off the plane. Plane blows up. He saves everybody, but they all get picked off. The deaths are fantastic. Um, Even though it came out in 2000 and it's a little bit overuse of CGI deaths, it's still awesome. Um, each sequel is brilliant. Second one's brilliant with the car pile up on the motorway. The third one is probably my favourite, with the fairground ride with Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and she's in one of your favourite films, Death Proof. She's a very
Yeah,
beautiful girl. She is the main person. She has the vision that the roller coaster is going to crash. Now, I love the roller coaster one because if you like roller coasters, that fear of what if it broke down or what if it came apart, they play with it so well. The bolts are coming loose and then they're hanging upside down. It's fantastic. They got fantastic kills in it. Number 4 is the NASCAR race crash.
yeah,
It's fucking shit. It's Final Destination 3, sorry, 3D, and things are coming at you. But it's one of those 3Ds where it's been converted. I'm assuming because it's, when they're in like a coffee shop talking, they look like cardboard cutouts. It's like I hated 3D, and that is one of the worst examples of it. But it's
yeah.
so trash the fourth one because there's a car pile up, and the same part of the stand keep getting hit, but they're going around the track. Other people from the other side of the track should be getting hit, but it's just this
Yeah,
one
yeah, yeah.
small section where the main cast are sitting with their hot dogs, and it's just rubbish deaths. Now the fifth one is a return to form. It's brilliant. It's the one with the bridge and all the cars falling in.
Yeah.
They got some of the best deaths. You've got the awesome the woman's on the balance beam, the gymnast,
Oh, it's
and
horrific.
oh my god, it looks
Yeah,
ridiculous, but it's so brilliant. Um, Probably the worst death of the series is the sunbed death, the most painful death, and that's in number 3, where the two girls get
yeah.
trapped in the sunbeds. Um, there's a there's a sixth one coming out. Pretty much, I mean, there's a new Scream coming out, and there's a new Final Destination. But the problem I got is called Final Destination Bloodlines. Now, in my experience, when it's got a Bloodline subtitle, it's usually straight to video. Hellraiser Bloodlines,
Hellraiser.
uh, he Pet Sematary Bloodlines, Day of the Dead Bloodlines. It's just like it sounds a bit straight to video, and I'm
Yeah.
fingers crossed it's not gonna be because I love this franchise, but yeah, that's, yeah, if you haven't seen any of the films, I highly recommend it. Don't the 4th one is not avoidable, it's just the weakest by
Yeah.
a lot. It's not like Tremors 2. What do you think of that?
Yeah, love them. An absolute mainstay growing up. I mean, being in school at the time the Find Destinations were coming out,
Yeah,
everyone always spoke about them. No matter what type of films you were into, if you didn't like horrors, everybody was watching Final Destination.
yeah,
It's
it's
probably
awesome.
one of my biggest memories in movies is everyone in school just constantly talking about Final Destination. The one that always comes back, obviously, is the second one with the logs on the
Oh, yes.
lorry. That's everyone's fear after Final Destination 2.
Yeah.
I keep almost saying the Final Friday because obviously that's why I keep stuttering when I say Final Destination.
Yeah,
No,
right.
cracking pick, gents. Not one I would have chosen myself. Obviously, my next pick, my top pick, is a 10 times better franchise, a 10 times more successful franchise. Don't shake your head because you're going to be eating your words now. We have the Evil Dead franchise. By far, the greatest horror franchise of all time. In my mind, nothing comes close. Now, these movies have been insanely consistent. It's actually crazy where they started to where they are now. You had a group of friends from college got together, right, to make this cheap movie in the woods. And literally, when I say a group of friends, it is literally just like you and your friends going out and saying, let's go make a film. There's no budget, there's no actors, there's nothing. It's just them going into the woods and filming this movie. And obviously, Evil Dead 1 becomes a big hit because it was so violent. In the UK, it became a video nasty, and obviously, everybody wanted to see it. So obviously, Evil Dead 1 became a massive hit because of that. And then you take a few years off, Sam Raimi goes and does some other things, and then he gets clawed back in to do Evil Dead 2, and he just dials up everything in this movie, adds a bit of comedy, adds more craziness. You've got the birth of the real Ash Williams. Now, Bruce Campbell really comes into his own in the sequel. By far the more iconic movie. Now, while I love the first Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2 to me is Evil Dead. Like, that's what Evil Dead is. I feel like everything that they wanted to do came together in this movie.
Yeah,
You've got Henrietta, such a good villain, one of the best costumes ever. You've got Sam Raimi's brother Ted in the costume
yeah,
himself. One of the most memorable movie monsters of all time. Everything about the second one is perfection. It's by far one of my favorite movies of all time. And then Army of Darkness comes out. Now, I absolutely love Army of Darkness. And when I was a kid, Army of Darkness was my Evil Dead. It's the one I watched all the time. For obvious reasons, it was a lot more childish and a lot more fun than the other ones. While I did like the first two when I was young, Army of Darkness is the one I went back to all the time.
yeah,
I knew it word for word by the time I was 10. And that opening scene where he's getting dragged towards Castle Kandar, and then the whole scene where he gets thrown the pit, and you've got the pit deadite, and just that iconic scene where he's saying "my boomstick." It's just amazing when that film starts and that scene gets rolling. I'm
yeah,
there. Now, I've heard you speak about Army of Darkness, and I know your points of it, and I do agree with you that it is a bit too silly. Now, I would have liked a bit more violence in there, a bit more blood, and some more horror. Now, it's hard to even call Army of Darkness a horror, which is crazy because it has the Evil Dead stamp on it. But I
yeah,
love this movie. It is actually my favourite version of Ash. Now, Evil Dead 2 is my favourite film, but my favourite version of Ash is in Army of Darkness. There's so much love for that film.
yeah,
And cut to 2013, we get one of the greatest remakes of all time. Remake sequel, some people call it a sequel because Ash's car's outside the cabin. I call it a remake. It doesn't feel like it's got much connection to the
no,
originals at all, other than that car being there, which I feel like was just a little Easter egg.
yeah,
One of the greatest remakes of all time, Fede Alvarez's 2013 Evil Dead, an absolute monster of a movie and a go masterpiece. This movie is insane. And then we've got Ash Williams returning for Ash vs Evil Dead. Massive fan of this series. We've got 3 seasons cut short. Unfortunately, we didn't get that final fourth season, which was going to be kind of like his Army of Darkness of the series. But they go into the future. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. But do you know what? I was happy to get another 3 seasons worth of Ash Williams. I'm more than happy with that. I still go back to it and watch it. And then lastly, before I ramble on for too long,
Yep.
we've got the newest edition, 2023's Evil Dead Rise, which me and you went to cinema to see,
Yeah.
Jenks. And
Awesome.
again, another 5-star movie from Evil Dead. And we've got another one coming out soon. Like I said at the start, by far the most consistent franchise of all time. Under it's always been under Sam Raimi, and I think that's one of the main reasons this has been a mainstay in horror, and every movie has been consistently good because obviously you've got the same team working on all of them. But yeah, absolutely the best horror franchise of all time. What do you think,
Uh,
Jenks?
I I actually would say that yes, it is the greatest horror franchise of all time because we kind of like to have our own picks, and we don't.
Yeah,
It's no point overlapping because we have got less things to talk about. But gun to my head, I would agree. Evil Dead is my favorite, most consistent. I can watch Army Darkness, and if I make fun of it, it's because it comes from a place of love. Because it's like making fun of your friend. You can have a bit of
yeah,
banter if you love something. But I prefer Ash to be. I prefer my horror to be a little more. My comedy in horror to be a little bit more subtle. Um, because even Shaun of the Dead, although it's a comedy, it's got some genuine creepy moments. It's not just a flat out spoof. Um, I love Rise. I love the remake. Probably my least favorite one is number one, and that's still awesome. Um, Two
yeah,
is a masterpiece. And yeah, I can't wait for the next installment because if they nail the next one, which would be number five, then I suppose, fuck me, it's unstoppable, in my opinion.
yeah, absolutely. There we are then, guys. We will catch you on the next video.
Cheers.